What would you do if the person you invited into your home became a cold-blooded killer? In the spring of 2019, a lively group of 20-somethings spent their weekends partying in East Detroit, letting the music, laughter, and alcohol fill the night. But one Friday night in late May, that carefree energy turned into a nightmare that no one could have imagined. Jokes and dancing gave way to terror in the early hours when a masked gunman stormed the house, leaving 3 young lives shattered forever. By the time the sun began to rise, the streets of East Detroit had seen something unimaginable: blood, screams, and the aftermath of a massacre that would haunt the city for years. Before we begin, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of the deceased, whose lives were tragically cut short. May they find strength, comfort, and peace in the memories of their loved ones. No family should ever have to go through such tragedy, and we must all work together to ensure communities are safer, stronger, and more vigilant. This is True Crime Diaries, where we delve deep into the most chilling and complex criminal cases, bringing you the untold stories behind the headlines. Join us as we uncover the facts, the twists, and the shocking truths behind some of the darkest moments in history. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more gripping stories. Let us know your thoughts below. We'd love to hear from you. It was Friday, May 25th, 2019. The party was winding down at a friend's house on Devonshire Road. Blair Keys, Paris Cameron, Alante Davis, Arman Matthews, and Timothy Miami Blancher were among the last 5 guests. They laughed, reminisced, and recovered from the chaos of the night. Dancing, arguments, and the occasional spilled drink. The house itself was in the middle of construction, a mess of half-finished walls, scattered furniture, and party debris. It was chaotic but familiar, a safe space for friends who trusted one another. The mood was relaxed, joking about everything from the failed dance moves to a flirtatious moment earlier in the night. None of them could have anticipated that the house would soon become a crime scene. Then came the sound, a sudden bang that they assumed was fireworks outside. But it wasn't celebration. It was the beginning of unimaginable horror. Through the front door, a man wearing a ski mask appeared. Gun in hand, he opened fire indiscriminately. The chaos lasted only moments, but in those seconds, lives would be changed forever. Blair Keys dove into the bathroom, hiding from the gunman, while Paris and Alante were struck in the living room. Arman, himself wounded in the chest, scrambled to help Timothy, who was gravely injured. In the basement, Arman called 911, trying desperately to save his friends. Over 20 shots rang out in the house that night. Alante had been hit twice, Timothy and Paris 4 times each.
911 was inside the emergency. Please, get emergency. Somebody just came in and shot my friends. Okay. Ambulance, please, an emergency ambulance. I was on, I was broke. Oh my God. I shot in there. Can you please have somebody come to this? What's the address, ma'am? What's the street name? That's sorry. What's going on at the location, ma'am? No. I apologize. That's okay. Somebody just came in and shot up the house. And 2 of my friends are fatally wounded. Okay, I'm requesting you to the location now. Are there any injuries? Yes, serious injuries, so you can get one here as soon as possible, please, please. I'm requesting, did you see who did the shooting?
Emergency responders arrived to find Alante already dead in the dining room and Timothy beyond saving despite Arman's heroic efforts. Paris, rushed to the hospital, was kept alive briefly due to her status as an organ donor, but she, too, succumbed to her injuries. Paris Cameron, only 20, had come out as gay at 13 and later identified as a transgender woman. Timothy Blancher, known affectionately as Miami, was a fun-loving soul close to his family. Alante Davis, called Tay by his friends, was remembered as full of life and always ready to help. Arman Matthews and Blair Keys survived, though Arman had sustained a serious gunshot to the chest. Even the homeowner, 29-year-old Lance Atterbury, and Brendan Suttle, a new friend of Arman's, had narrowly missed the attack by leaving the house before the shooter arrived. Returning later, they were met with chaos. Police, ambulances, and the news of the massacre. The hours after the party began to blur for the survivors. Blair Keys huddled in the bathroom, his chest tight, heartbeat deafening in his ears, while the acrid smell of gunpowder and smoke filled the air. Each sound of movement, every creak in the floorboards, made him flinch. He couldn't shake the images of his friends, some lifeless, others writhing in pain just steps away, and yet he had been powerless to do more than watch. From the basement, Arman Matthews clutched his own wound, a deep bullet entry in the chest that stole his breath but could not silence the adrenaline. He had made it there by sheer instinct, dragging Timothy, who had been hit multiple times, down the stairs to safety. Arman pressed his hands over the open wounds, murmuring desperate encouragement, willing his friend to fight for life. In those moments, he didn't consider his own pain. All that mattered was keeping Timothy alive long enough for help to arrive. Outside, emergency responders converged on the Devonshire Road property. Red and blue lights painted the walls, shadows of the paramedics moving quickly against the backdrop of the house. Blair peeked through the cracked bathroom door as he heard voices calling out, commands shouted, and the sharp click of radios. The police and paramedics moved with precision, but the scene inside was chaotic beyond measure. He knew 3 of his friends would not walk away from this night. Alante Davis, known affectionately as Tay, lay motionless in the dining room. His laughter, so familiar to anyone who had known him, would never echo through the hallways again. Timothy Blancher, Miami to his friends, despite Arman's urgent care, had succumbed to his wounds before paramedics could fully stabilize him. Paris Cameron, whose spirit had always shone brightly, was rushed into an ambulance. Her body kept alive briefly for organ donation purposes, but ultimately, even she could not survive the violence inflicted. Amid the confusion, questions began to circulate. Who had done this? Why? Blair and Arman, though shaken to their cores, tried to piece together the moments before the shooting. They remembered a visit to the BP gas station on the corner of Devonshire and Mac earlier that night, just hours before the tragedy. That visit, seemingly mundane at the time, would later prove to be a critical link in the investigation. Paris had noticed a young man while lining up at the cashier. He was alone, casually picking up a juice, and there was something about him that drew Paris' attention. With the boldness that had defined much of her young life, she had broken away from Alante to speak to him, smiling and laughing in a way that would seem innocuous but would later carry devastating consequences. The young man's presence had been brief, his intentions unreadable, but he left an impression that Paris would unknowingly carry with her back to the party. When the group returned to the house, Blair and the others had no idea that this encounter at the gas station would intertwine with the night's horrors. The young man, Devon Robinson, would soon enter the party, bringing with him an undercurrent of tension none could have foreseen. He was 18, 2 blocks away from the house, familiar with the area, yet unknown to most of the group. By the time Devon arrived, intoxication and youthful bravado had blurred the edges of caution. He found himself drawn into the master bedroom, moments spent in intimacy with Paris and others, the night's earlier chaos now replaced with laughter, flirting, and whispered secrets. The group's perceptions, the teasing, and the casual jokes about Devon's preferences created a small pocket of vulnerability, a window that, tragically, would soon be exploited. Devon's movements after leaving the house were captured on neighborhood cameras. Pacing, returning briefly to the BP station. A small but significant trail of behavior that hinted at an unstable mind. Less than an hour after leaving, the house on Devonshire would erupt in gunfire, the violence leaving a permanent scar on all who survived. As the investigation progressed, police traced Devon's steps meticulously. Every pause, every backtrack, and every moment in the hour following his time at the house was recorded, analyzed, and placed in context with the shooting. The pattern of his movement, from the gas station to the party, to his own home, and finally back in a dark silhouette running from the crime scene, formed a chilling timeline of premeditation and impulsive violence. Though Devon would later plead not guilty, the evidence mounted with a terrifying clarity. Camera footage, witness statements, and physical tracking linked him to the night in ways that left little room for alternative explanations. The investigators would also uncover details about his personal life. Closeted, on the down low, struggling with his own identity, all contributing to the pressures and insecurities that may have fueled his actions. The survivors, Blair and Arman, were haunted by the night's events. They had seen a fleeting glimpse of the shooter, but in the haze of trauma, memory is a fragile and shifting thing. Each time Blair recounted the moment the gunman entered, his mind revisited the panic, the terror, and the surreal realization that a friend could be lost within seconds. He would later identify Devon Robinson as the shooter, his certainty hardened by the overwhelming accumulation of evidence, but the psychological scars would remain long after the trial and the verdict. The morning after the Devonshire shooting, the neighborhood was cloaked in a quiet that felt unnatural. Streetlights flickered in the early dawn, casting long shadows over the still smoldering memory of the previous night. Law enforcement had barricaded the area, their presence heavy, deliberate, almost suffocating. Yellow tape stretched across driveways and sidewalks, cordoning off the house that had become the epicenter of tragedy. If the story moves you, don't stay silent. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to stay updated. Your engagement helps raise awareness, sparks conversations, and brings us closer to preventing tragedies like this. Blair Keys and Arman Matthews were among the first to speak to investigators. Their accounts were painstakingly detailed, revisiting moments of chaos that no one should ever be forced to relive. Blair described the way Devon entered the house, a brief smile that masked something darker, and how quickly the energy of the party shifted when gunfire erupted. Each detail, each movement, was dissected by the detectives, cross-referenced with surveillance cameras, and compared against witness statements from terrified partygoers who had scattered into the night. The investigation quickly honed in on Devon Robinson. Police traced his movements using a combination of gas station surveillance footage, cell phone pings, and dashcam footage from vehicles in the surrounding streets. His route was methodical yet impulsive, revealing a young man caught between careful planning and erratic behavior. At the BP gas station, the cameras had captured him lingering longer than necessary, eyes darting nervously, fingers fidgeting. His presence there, previously unremarkable, now became critical in establishing a timeline. Detectives also began reconstructing his path after leaving the house. Eyewitnesses reported seeing a figure matching Devon's description running down the street, clutching a dark object. CCTV confirmed he had returned to the BP station briefly before disappearing into the night. That small return, initially seen as casual, would later prove crucial, as investigators recovered discarded clothing and shell casings nearby, evidence linking him directly to the crime scene. As the hours stretched into days, the psychological weight on Blair and Arman intensified. They could not escape the mental replay of screams, gunfire, and the friends they had lost. Sleep was fragmented. Nightmares were relentless. Each knock at the door or unexpected sound made their hearts race. They were both witnesses and survivors, trapped in a liminal space where relief and trauma collided. Meanwhile, Devon's family became entwined in the unfolding drama. Friends and relatives described him as quiet, reserved, often conflicted internally, but no one could have predicted the violence he unleashed. For investigators, these personal insights were double-edged. They helped explain motives, yet offered little in the way of justification. Devon's social media footprint, previously innocuous, revealed a subtle escalation in his thoughts and behavior in the weeks leading up to the shooting, comments hinting at frustration, alienation, and hidden rage. The police meticulously mapped every possible interaction, from the BP encounter to the party, correlating timestamps with the survivor's recollections. Each small discrepancy was analyzed. The precise moment Devon left the house, when gunfire began, and how quickly victims were hit. Paramedics' reports and 911 call logs became pieces of a puzzle that, once complete, left little doubt about his involvement. By midweek, law enforcement moved with purpose. They obtained arrest warrants, prepared search protocols, and coordinated with federal agencies to ensure Devon could not flee. When the arrest finally occurred, it was swift and precise. Devon Robinson, caught near his own neighborhood, surrendered without resistance. The weight of the evidence, surveillance, shell casings, witness statements, and digital footprints made resistance futile. In the days that followed, the media descended, painting Devon in stark terms, dissecting his background, behavior, and the tragedy he had orchestrated. Blair and Arman, while grateful for justice moving forward, found themselves thrust unwillingly into the public eye, reliving trauma through interviews, statements, and social scrutiny.
You're saying that right now, but we know that you're responsible for the shooting. They had to secure enough to arrest you for the house. Now, we know some other things that happened prior to that. We know some things that they did to you that was not cool prior to that. We know that you were intoxicated prior to that. And it took you back there and also know that things happened. Okay? We know exactly what you did, but we want to know why you did what you did. What was your emotional state during that time? We can go home and get what you did, but we both men too, and we understand we might have did the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Don't nobody know that.
Don't nobody know what?
Don't nobody download shit.
For you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't nobody know, not even my mom.
Okay.
I'm on pops, nobody.
So, okay. So don't nobody know what you download. So, with that being said, that's the point of what we're talking about. Now, were you threatening to be exposed?
I ain't mad about. It's the thing that everybody finding out.
You don't want people to find out?
No, I'm talking about my family, like my mom and my daddy.
You don't want them to find out?
They're all these people.
That you don't want to find out? Why not?
Because I haven't told them myself. But I wanted to tell them before.
You want to tell them what, that you down wrong?
Yeah, but can't.
You want to tell them before this stuff happened?
Yeah.
Before my son told me. I knew. I looked at him. You know what I'm saying? We know our kids. You don't think you have tendencies that they don't know? Or they see people you hanging around, you don't think they know?
Each mention of Devon's name reopened old wounds, a painful reminder that recovery would be neither simple nor linear. Investigators continued to unravel the intricacies of Devon's life, searching for patterns that might explain the night's violence. The combination of isolation, personal identity struggles, and access to firearms painted a portrait of a young man overwhelmed by internal conflict yet capable of calculated action. Experts brought in to profile him noted the paradox. A teenager oscillating between vulnerability and aggression, whose personal insecurities had metastasized into devastating violence. The courtroom was silent, save for the occasional shuffle of papers and the soft murmur of the bailiffs. Devon Robinson sat at the defendant's table, expression unreadable, hands clasped tightly. Outside, the press camped along the steps of the courthouse, cameras poised to capture every moment, every reaction. The case had drawn national attention, not only because of the senselessness of the crime, but also because of the stark contrast between Devon's outwardly ordinary life and the violent acts he had committed. For Blair Keyes and Arman Matthews, the trial was an emotional crucible. Every testimony, every piece of evidence presented, forced them to relive the night of terror. They watched as detectives recounted the painstaking investigation. The CCTV footage from the gas station, the trajectory of the bullets, the 911 calls made in panic, and the harrowing descriptions from surviving witnesses. Each detail, meticulously examined, left little room for ambiguity. The prosecution laid out a narrative that was both clinical and chilling. Devon had planned the attack, the evidence suggested, moving with deliberate intent from the party to the gas station, discarding clothing and other items to obscure his trail. Experts testified on the psychological profile of the accused, outlining a mix of social isolation, internalized anger, and an escalating sense of grievance. Their analysis was precise, aimed at explaining how a young man like Devon could become capable of such violence. The defense, however, attempted to paint a different picture. They argued for his youth, immaturity, and susceptibility to stress. They highlighted the struggles Devon had faced at home and at school, emphasizing that while his actions were undeniably tragic, they were rooted in deeper personal and psychological challenges.
It's packed full of emotion, right? Okay, we've got TV cameras, we've got 3 victims, we've got sex involved. This thing is, I'm sure, not part of your everyday life. All right? So right now, it's time to put both feet on the ground, take a deep breath. We're here, we're real, we're relaxed. We're going to make them prove it.
Go home, what do you do? Take a shower and go to sleep. Take a shower and go to sleep. You been home that whole time, right? Yes. You said what time? Until like 11 o'clock. A.m. Next morning. Because we have videos of you going in the house and coming right back out shortly afterwards and going back to that house. Okay, we have videos of that. Because you just told me you left out at 11 o'clock. That's not true. Why? We have actual videos. So either you forgot or you lying to me. Which one is it? I didn't forget. I think I'm sorry. I'll tell you because I did. Well, you did, because we had your video coming out, going back to the house. So, I did. How you gonna make me? Cameras everywhere. We had cameras everywhere. Right. Tracks. Right. Boom, boom, boom. We can piece all that together. Right. No bullshit. I'm listening to you. I need you to hear me. If you're listening, no, right. So I'm just saying. I'm just memory loss or whatever the case may be. I'm telling you what we tracked on video, not just tracking on a dog. Which we can do that, we did that as well. Boom, boom, boom. In the house. Running. That's a fact.
The courtroom was a tense theater of competing narratives, one of justice and accountability, the other of understanding and human complexity. Public reaction outside the courthouse was equally intense. Social media platforms erupted with debates, opinions, and hashtags demanding justice. Community members organized vigils for the victims, laying flowers and candles near the sites of the tragedy. Blair and Arman attended some of these gatherings, finding both solace and renewed pain in the collective grief. Their journey toward healing was slow, punctuated by moments of reflection, anger, and fragile hope. As the trial progressed, the accumulation of evidence left the jury little room for doubt. Witnesses testified with unwavering clarity, each account reinforcing the timeline of events and Devon's role. The surveillance footage was shown repeatedly, analyzed frame by frame, leaving an indelible impression of premeditation.
That because I really, like, at that time, like, I was the type of person that's like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. If y'all want to bring a random boy from a gas station, that's on y'all. But I did tell him, like, you know, I didn't like the fact that they did that because it's a random boy from a gas station, you know.
Why does this concern you?
It concerned me because it's a random guy from a gas station. Yeah, he was just chilling. Mm-hmm.
Does he say anything to these individuals? That are
no, the whole time he's not saying anything. He's just sitting there chilling the whole entire time. Not an emotion in his face.
What is the interaction between Paris and the defendant before he leaves?
They just exchange numbers.
How does the
And
defendant...
then after that hug, and Devon walks the way that he came.
How does the defendant look while Paris is talking to him?
He has just a very bland look. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll see you again." That's what he said when he left. Me, Paris, Alante, Timothy, and Arman.
All right, and while you're sitting around laughing about this situation, what happened?
We hear footsteps. We think it's Lance. We hear, like, mind you, it's like kind of close to July, so we hear like little firecracker noises. It wasn't a big gun, but it was like pow, pow, pow. So we thinking it's Lance playing a joke. But then we see a guy with a ski mask come in. All I hear is Paris scream and gunshot.
What do you do?
I just sat there and waited for him to walk out the house. I was scared.
Are you able to identify the person who was the shooter that night?
Yes.
Why?
Only by skin complexion and eyes.
And what did that look like to you?
It looked like the same boy that came with
The person sitting in the courtroom today, the defendant, Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
You didn't see the face of the shooter, did you?
No, but I got a good...
I'm asking, did you see the face of the shooter, yes or no?
No.
You really didn't look at who was shooting, correct?
I glanced.
Yes.
A 2-second shot and glanced. And then I ran.
I was in the dining room area. I really could not see the front door. Blair seen everything. When I seen the gunshots, I immediately, first we were all, we were like, what are they? Are they fireworks? But, I grabbed Timothy and I rushed down to the basement and I had him with me. When we were running down the basement, he was saying something to me and immediately stopped talking. He grabbed my hand and put my hand where the bullet shot was on his chest.
Indicating for the record your hand is on your chest.
Yes. And I held pressure. I ran back upstairs because I heard Blair screaming. I ran back upstairs to make sure everything was all right. I see Teddy and Pierce curled up in the corner. I called 911. I stayed on the phone with 911. I ran back downstairs. I held pressure on my hand because he was still breathing. Timothy, he was looking at me. And I held pressure on him. And I stayed on the phone until the cops got there. When the cops got there, she put her gun to my face, made me take pressure off of Timothy. And I believe that is when he really lost his life.
You've indicated that you didn't see the individual shooting, did you?
I did not.
Expert testimony on ballistics, digital tracking, and behavioral profiling painted a complete picture, leaving the courtroom both riveted and unsettled.
Anyone to know about his sexuality. He went home that night and he knew that they were all going to be talking. It was all going to be all over the neighborhood. You heard even Arman tell you he moved out of that neighborhood because he didn't feel like he could be a gay man in that neighborhood. I know you're gonna hear about how the mom has a girlfriend and how the sister has a girlfriend too. The reality is, for this family, it is different from them. And you hear that from the defendant's mouth. It's the thing. Everybody was going to know. Everybody was going to find out. My mom was going to find out. My dad was going to disown me. And so he makes an even stupider decision to get dressed in black clothing, head down towards Brunswick, over to Devonshire, kill all these people, come running back out towards Buckingham, back in the house. Again, you would have to believe, after all of this, that some random person went for an 8-minute walk at the exact time of the shooting. That's not what happened. This is the defendant. The defendant did this.
He didn't threaten anybody. He didn't swear at anybody. He didn't say, oh, I'm ashamed of what I did. He was a willing participant. He has got absolute no reason in the world to go and shoot 3 individuals.
Ultimately, the jury delivered a verdict that was decisive. Devon Robinson was found guilty of multiple counts of murder and assault. The sentence was severe, reflecting the gravity of his actions and the irreversible damage inflicted on the victims and the community.
As to count 1, homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated, Alante Davis.
We find the defendant guilty.
How do you find the defendant as to count 2, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Timothy Blancher?
Guilty.
And as to count 3, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Paris Cameron?
Guilty.
As to count 4?
For Blair and Arman, hearing the verdict brought a complex mix of relief and sorrow. Justice had been served, yet the emotional scars of that night remained. In the weeks that followed, the survivors embarked on a journey toward recovery. Therapy sessions, support groups, and community outreach became essential components of their healing process. They learned to navigate daily life with the awareness that trauma leaves lasting imprints, but also with the understanding that resilience could be nurtured. They participated in educational initiatives, sharing their experiences to raise awareness about the signs of violent behavior and the importance of community vigilance. The community, too, began to rebuild. Memorials were held, discussions on gun safety intensified, and local organizations initiated programs to support youth mental health. The tragedy had left a permanent mark, but it also catalyzed action, ensuring that lessons were learned and preventive measures strengthened. By the time months passed, Blair and Arman were no longer merely survivors. They had become advocates, educators, and voices for change. While the memories of that night never fully faded, they discovered that sharing their experiences, supporting others, and finding meaning in the aftermath could transform personal grief into communal resilience. The court had delivered justice, but the true measure of recovery was in the lives rebuilt and the awareness raised, a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of tragedy. The community, once paralyzed by grief and fear, had begun to heal in tangible ways. Local authorities implemented more rigorous safety measures, including enhanced security at public venues and improved monitoring around vulnerable areas. Counseling services were expanded for young people, with programs designed to identify behavioral red flags and offer support before crises escalated. Neighborhood groups organized workshops on conflict resolution, anger management, and peer support, creating a network of vigilance rooted in empathy rather than suspicion. Families of the victims found their own ways to honor the memories of those lost. Memorials were maintained, scholarships were established in their names, and community projects were launched to promote peace, awareness, and safety. These initiatives turned grief into action, ensuring that the lives taken were not forgotten, and that their loss could foster positive change for others. For Blair and Arman, personal growth became intertwined with collective healing. They learned to navigate life with heightened awareness, but without allowing fear to dominate their choices. They cultivated resilience through therapy, mindfulness, and engagement with their communities. The trauma they endured did not vanish. It became a lens through which they viewed the world with greater empathy, strength, and purpose. Their lives may have ended too soon, but our commitment to safety, awareness, and compassion can ensure their legacy shapes a stronger, safer community for all. If you or someone you know is at risk, don't wait. Reach out, Speak up and help prevent another tragedy like this. What do you think? Did justice truly prevail, or is there more to the story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more jaw-dropping true crime stories. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and always look a little deeper. This is True Crime Diaries, where every story has a pulse.